Welcome to the Enchanted Sanctuary, the podcast for women ready to explore self-discovery and spiritual growth. Whether it's mastering your mindset, exploring energy work, or tapping into your intuition, this podcast is your go-to toolbox for spiritual and inner work. Think of it as a cozy chat with friends, where we celebrate the magic of growth and the beauty of becoming your true self. Each week, I'll talk with amazing women who share their personal journeys and the tools they've discovered to inspire and empower others. So if you're ready to embrace your path, discover new tools, and feel inspired, hit subscribe and join me in Enchanted Sanctuary. Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Enchanted Sanctuary, our second episode. And in today's one, I'm going to be talking to Cindy Hamill, which is a long-term friend of mine. I think we worked it out, wasn't it 2016, 2015? Wow. We go back. So a very long time, and we've just shared so much stuff together. And she was one of the first people, one, that I wanted to be on here, and two, she's actually the instigator, the idea behind this podcast. And we'll probably get into this as well, talking about we're just talking about it actually, about human design. Cindy is a manifestor, meaning that she just throws all these ideas at me. Me being a generator, I go and choose which one brings me joy, and then I go along and create it. And so she came up with this idea about the podcast, and I literally ran with it. So yeah, thank you so much, Cindy, for doing this.
I am so happy to be here, Nicky. This is so exciting.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. And I'm so blessed anyway with our friendship that we have, because we've just gone through so much together, and we're always pinging ideas and helping each other. And for you to put this idea in my head about the podcast, and here we are.
Well, I think that the connections that you have and the healing that you're bringing to the world, I just think it's important to put it out there in as many different ways as you are. So it's exciting to be part of that.
Totally. And to give, I think I've always loved the idea of creating a platform where other people can come in for healing modalities. And, as we're speaking about it, the Spirituality One-on-One Toolbox is that when we start this journey and we start doing all the inner work. And I remember for me, when I first started doing all, going through it all, but the dark night of the soul, I'm thinking, what the heck is out there? And I think EFT was one of the first tools that I turned to. It's one of the first things I heard about. And so, Cindy, you do Faster. Is it Faster EFT?
Yeah, it was originally introduced, probably back in 2002 or maybe even earlier, 99, to the original EFT with Gary Craig. So that's kind of where I started with it. And then in 2002 was diagnosed with cancer and kind of started that mind-body connection or beliefs, whatever, of I guess taking 100% responsibility that I probably created a friendly space in my being for the cancer to manifest. And so then what do I need to do? Like something had to change so that it didn't come back, I guess was my belief system, and the educating I started doing for myself. And one of the tools, through the emotional part of it and the physical symptoms from surgery and chemo and stuff, was using EFT. And then it was a few years later that I found Faster EFT, or they now call it Utaptics. So
they call it what?
Utaptics. Yeah.
And so what's the difference between the two? Maybe probably start with the EFT first, if you know about that anyway, and then the difference between the two.
So a little bit of just belief systems around it. I mean, I think the tool does the same thing, right? You're tapping on different meridian lines connected to the major organs in your body that react when you're stressed or in pain or fear or, whatever is going on. With the EFT, it uses a lot of different spots. In the original, you actually tapped on your fingers. It was a lot. And so Robert Smith, wanting to speed it up, I think did the research of what spots, what do they really do? And he also brought in the concept of hypnosis and NLP into it, of what we're really doing in our minds to create the problems. So he narrowed down to just doing, in between the eye, side of the eye, under the eye, collarbone, and then grabbing your wrist, because a lot of the meridian lines go down your arm. So it's quicker in that way, that it's less spots, so easier to remember where to tap and how to do the tapping. And then just what you're aiming at. So if there's a specific issue, to make sure you know what you're aiming at, but then to focus on the tapping, not keep focusing on the problem, if that makes any sense.
Okay. And with you bring like a lot of visualization into it, don't you? Because I remember when we did this together, it was so strong of really going back to the original start point and changing that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's part of it, that, if you really do the research, that memories aren't real. They happen once, but there's research that shows that when you go back to visit a memory again, if you're in a good mood, it changes it. If you're in a bad mood, it changes it. So why not use the power and the knowledge we have to go back and change it for good? Even if it's a horrific experience, you can still go back and change it. You don't have to continue to live in that trauma of the past. So you can go back and change the memories.
It's so true, because, even the fact if two people live one situation, they both experience exactly the same thing, but they can both have two entirely different memories about. I mean, children are classic things. Well, I don't remember that. She was really good. Or
I'm the youngest of 5 siblings, and that was very clear at my father's funeral, because each one of us got up to speak, and my oldest sister is 13 years older than I am, and she got up and was speaking about this person. I'm like, who is she talking about? Like, that's not the father I lived with. So it's I mean, even in a family situation where it's the same parents, like you said, everybody has a different perspective. And even with twins, they can be in the same household, but filter it in very differently. And yeah, it's fascinating.
totally. And that again, it goes back to beliefs. And yeah, it's so, because we say this, it's only the present moment and the past, but when you really sit down and really feel into that, how the past, you can't go back to the past. It doesn't exist anymore. And I remember when you did it with me, it was so powerful. You just can't remember how the other memory was.
Yeah, and I think being like present minded and mindful, to start being aware of, is it really about this in this moment? I give an example. My son, spilling milk, and my huge reaction to it. It was milk. And I remember stopping and like, what is this really about? Because it's not about this white liquid on the floor of my kitchen. And, for me, it went back to childhood memories of, I had a parent with a temper. And so that, I guess, inner child in me was afraid I was going to get in trouble if there was something spilled, and reacted that way on him. And it was like, wow. Like, again, my father's been dead for 40 years. But to have that realization of my reaction was based on something that doesn't even exist anymore. So to become more mindful, day to day of whether, I live near the nation's capital here in Virginia, and, traffic or road rage. I don't know in your cute little town if you have any traffic, but
Two tractors
just
colliding.
having to avoid cats as you're driving into town. But yeah, I mean, just to become aware of what your reaction, and then really what is the reaction, based from, or coming from, or originating from.
Yeah, the triggers, basically.
Yes.
What's really poking the finger at it. And I think
Yeah.
that was a big thing as well, going on to triggers, is that we're so apt to blame what's happening, like, blaming your son for spilling the milk. And then when we, as you did, to be really start to become aware, think, hang on, that trigger isn't about that person. It's about what's happening in me. Where's my responsibility in it? And I know with me, with emotion code, have you seen that when we have situations that occur, even as a memory, people want to work on something, and then we'll say, well, I think it's to do with this situation that happened when I was so-and-so age. And then they're often really surprised that the emotions coming out aren't coming from that situation. They're coming back from further back, or they're coming back from another life, parallel lives. And so it's never about that one situation. That one situation is being caused by something else. And it's all, then we get on to like the karmic cycles keep going around, which is, almost like as a mini thing, I think, with triggers and the milk, same situation, different, different scenery, if you like.
Yeah.
And then you get the karmic circle, obviously so much bigger.
Well, and I love that part of the emotion code, and I'm so grateful for what you've taught me about that in the years that I've known you, of where nowadays when I'm doing, tapping with a client, I think it's, for me, it's more intuitive hits of, like the age 5 is coming up in my head or whatever. But I love with emotion code, the actual muscle testing to be able to identify like what was going on at 7 years old, or, to be able to have them mindfully, again, go back and connect with that 7-year-old
Yes.
in those
Yeah.
sessions.
And what I found with that as well, and I should do a whole separate episode about emotion because I'll talk about a separate thing. But I found that sometimes that the emotions that come up are never just about that. It'll happen just before. And it's almost as if something else has triggered, like two. You said, well, yeah, but it didn't happen till I was 10. These emotions are coming up at 8. I said, yeah, but those emotions at 8 actually created then that situation at 10. And we don't even realize it. But that again, even me saying it now, thinking, oh my God, we
Well,
actually
I
then
mean,
start.
because they've talked about that wherever, about like with cancer, kind of like what was happening 2 years prior to your
Yeah,
diagnosis, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
exactly that.
yeah. So,
Classic.
and the law of attraction, right? Even though you might not consciously be ruminating on whatever, like it's in there percolating.
Yeah, this is taking us
Gonna
down the
attract.
whole other track, about the trapped emotions. And I was just thinking about somebody on Facebook was saying about that she's got a tooth issue and what can I do about it? And I said, well, I had this issue with one tooth and it kept coming back. And every like moon cycle, every like the full moon, my goodness, I thought, I'm not going to the dentist here. Anyway, there's no more dentists available around here. But what is it really showing? And so I looked up at a book that I've got. And actually, in fact, it's just under my computer. I could just, it is, it's my Bible. This one that's holding this book, the Encyclopedia of Ailments and Diseases.
Yes, I just got that recently.
Oh, my absolute Bible. If you don't have it, if you're into finding it, it's just phenomenal because it goes into real depth. I found the Louise Hay one just doesn't do it for me. I don't get it. But this just blows. I've actually got some pressed flowers near here. Hence the piece of paper stuck in there. Me pressing flowers for my creative stuff. But yeah, it really goes into the emotions behind the physical or what's happening, and then with affirmations. But it goes in at such depth, unbelievable. And I looked up about the particular tooth because each tooth is linked to either an organ or an emotion, and this particular one was linked to grief and being in control, or the fear of being in control. And funny enough, at the same time, when I was having this problem, one of our cats, I have 10 cats, one of the cats disappeared, and it was a beautiful white one. It was the youngest one that we've got, this little kitten. And he disappeared for 10 days. And I cried and I cried and I cried. And I've got cats, and I don't think I'd been so upset so quickly because these are feral cats that they come and go. But this one just had such a huge effect, thinking, my God, it's releasing grief. It's triggering this whole other chain of emotions. And then I started doing emotion code on my tooth, and it was all about the grief. And since then, I've had nothing. it's gone. And I
It's
think we
so funny
don't.
because I remember seeing your post about what you were like, one of the posts about your tooth and what you were doing for it. And so now as you're saying that, I'm like, oh, huh. So I'm going to have to go look up because one of the books that I love is Metaphysical Anatomy. So similar to that
Mm.
and yeah, breaking it down. So I'm going to have to go look up
It
what's
is, and
going
I
on.
think we get so into this habit of, I've got a toothache, I need to go to the dentist. It's just this automatic reflex, it's like, got a headache, take a paracetamol. And if we just stop and think and thinking, okay, what is this really telling me? Because physical pain, and I think we're both on the same line with this as well, with you, with your Faster EFT, that the emotions that are trapped, if they get trapped in these, when we go through trauma, etc., if we don't listen to it, it eventually comes in like, and then the physical is like your body shouting like, hello, now will you listen to me?
Yes.
And we just think that teeth aren't part of it. We're so used to thinking about your neck pain and back pain. People kind of get it. But teeth are also, and that apparently with teeth, they are highly concentrated parts of emotion. They're the most concentrated part of our body. And so it really gets in there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And there are maps that tell you, yeah, each tooth and each organ and what the emotions are behind it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
because I think, right, it's so much easier to just go take the pill or go to the dentist or, yeah, because I mean, all of this, the spiritual journey, self help, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's work, but it's
It is
so
work.
worth it. Because to me, once you get to the root cause of that trigger, it's like, oh, okay, now that's done. And I think the other thing I've noticed with the tapping or the Reiki or the other, energy medicine I do, the ripple effect, right? Like once you heal that grief, like the shifts in other, whether it's relationships or belief systems, like there can be a domino effect if
Mm.
find a good root cause that it can trigger a bunch of stuff. And all of a sudden, money comes in and you're like, that's been on my website for years. Like, why are people all of a sudden buying it? Like, you have no idea the web of how things are
Yes.
connected. But when you clear that one thing out, it's like, oh,
Completely. Like, it's like the tapestry where you just pull one thread and how that affects the whole picture. And oh god, we just bounce up. This is the thing that when me and Cindy get in conversations, it always ends up going. We just go down rabbit holes and start bouncing off each other. And I completely forgot what's going. Oh yes, that was it. The outside world is such a reflection on what's really going on within. And people hear this, it's one of these things like, let it go and live your purpose and be alive. All these things we fling around, but we don't actually stop and think. And when people say, it's a reflection of the outside world, everything. Oh God, I saw this reel once that really struck a chord with me about it. How it really is that the whole, because we can't see within ourselves, we need to have that outside manifestation to see it. And this is why that we become responsible for everything that's happening, because it's within us.
yeah. I think of the right kind of creating the hologram. Like, this is my version of reality. Of I just saw the beginning of a new series, and it's I think it's called Paradise, and it's about like a U.S. president and his Secret Service agent. In the first episode, they find the president dead in his residence, and at the end of the first episode of this, multi-episode, it pans out, and it looks like it's all done on a soundstage. So kind of the illusion of this is reality, but they've created this mini world. Anyway,
Yes.
so it makes me then, think about, right, our lives and what version of reality am I creating here in, the States versus and how my reality connected with your, it's just, yeah. And the power we actually do have to manage it or create it or manifest whatever we want by this this process that we're going through.
Completely. And I think there's a thing where if you think a thought, I think the total, wasn't it 60, something like 69 seconds or something. There's an actual thing that the length of time that you give energy to a certain thought is where that thought then becomes something physical. So it brings it down into physical. So, we can go on so many tangents. But yeah, just coming back to what you just said, about the other energy healing that you do. So what else do you do?
So I started probably with the tapping and then the exploration of the mind body connection and all that. And I adopted my son years ago. And that certainly took me down a rabbit hole of understanding trauma or trying to understand trauma and its impact, because he was 3.5 when he came to my home. So then I went down that whole trauma informed stuff. And then quantum healing. I've done Reiki. I've done something called Divine Soul. So more, energy healing, intuitive. And I think it's, I didn't grow up around intuitive people or not to my awareness. So it's been wonderful and fascinating to me of like, oh, I'm tuning into blah, 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 like even with you, and you're like, ow, so it's just, yeah. So that's been very fun to have developed that awareness to be able to help people in their healing process.
So for you, growing up in a family that didn't exist at all, how did your family regard you as this person doing weird stuff?
Now,
Yes.
I I don't think anybody's really aware of it, to be honest. I have a sibling who's a medical doctor. I have one who's a nurse. So they're,
Oh.
yeah. So it's a different realm that we function in.
Oh.
And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's funny. I don't know that they really know the
So
tools
is
that I
that your
have.
choice of not them knowing? Is that just keeping it quiet? Just
I think part of it is like if you're curious, you can ask. Like I have a website, so but I think too, I mean, especially with the doctor, and I'm not picking, but I think some of it is possibly beyond the scope, or this is how it is, and so don't. Yeah, I just don't
yeah,
know.
not a place to go. Just if you want to know about me, find out.
Yeah, because it's funny of even if it's not a blatant like, oh, I can change energy or energy healing, whatever, but just planting, dropping little seeds with people of even inviting them to question their reality, as far as the mindfulness, like, wow, that seems to really bother you. What is that really about? Is it really because it's raining out, or is there something behind that? So just, I guess I don't have to come in like, I just kind of plant seeds
Plant
of
seeds.
different
Yeah, so I think
perspectives.
that, and I think that's something that we've probably talked about, prior to this podcast about, which kind of what got me here, and all the conversations we've had around it, of how people starting out on their journey. When we take this journey, I mean, people think that spirituality is all love and light. That's it, it's all wonderful. And I know I was like that. Take me back probably 10 years, and I was like mad and positive and all the rest of it. And then we start taking this deep dive. And like for you, it was a cancer. For me, it was being in debt. We all seem to go through these moments that really get us to strip away our everything that doesn't serve us. And it can be such a painful journey, and it does transform you. And at the end of that, or not the end of it when you, because that there is no end, but
Right.
when you go through that transformation, people start saying, well, you're not the same person as you were before, or, what are you talking about? Don't be too stupid. That does not affect me, and blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of, we're planting these seeds at the same time. It's creating like these little ripples of vibration of maybe they'll probably ignore you completely in that moment of conversation, but probably down the line, they'll probably like, oh, hang on a minute. What did Cindy say about that? Whoa, and it gets you thinking.
Well, and
But
it's
it can
also
be
been
lonely cat.
fascinating to me about who shows up and who disappears throughout this process.
Yes.
Whether it's, people you've known your entire life, and again, you go through, another dark night of the soul or something, and all of a sudden you just don't necessarily resonate with somebody. Or, I'm sure it happens in, marriages or long-term relationships all the time. I think, there's upside and downside to this healing process, and it's all part of the process. That it's fascinating. I mean, again, I look at my relationship with you of, throughout the process of the healing journey, to be connected with people of different vibrations, and so grateful, to have people like you in my life, and that the people who I just don't necessarily resonate with anymore, like, love you, enjoy your life, but I don't need to go on vacation with you anymore. I mean, and it's not, it's not like a I don't like you thing. It's just not
Yeah,
sharing
there's just
things in
nothing
common.
there. Yeah, and I remember when I started my Reiki journey, I think I said this on the last podcast as well, that when I first turned up to be attuned to Reiki, my Reiki master said to me, are you ready for this? And it was kind of like the red pill, blue pill moment, how Reiki will change your life and it will take away people that won't serve you on your path anymore and bring the people that's in. And that is so true. I think my whole, friendship base has completely changed. And I think many people have heard this as well, that we're on our own trains, on our own train track. Some people are in it for a stop, some people are in it for 2 stops, for 20, or for the whole journey. And when we start doing this journey, we're shifting stuff, we're releasing stuff, which is increasing our vibration, we're going back up. Whole of the conversation about vibration as well. But and that included is the people that leave. And so that there's this thing that's going on where, for one thing, we're allowing people to leave our lives. And then the same, in the other way, that the more we're changing, the more people are looking at you thinking you're a bit weird. You're what? You're working with energy? You're weird, and it's
Yeah, like, what are you
your
talking about?
whole
Yeah,
life shift.
but I think, I think it's all part of the process. Like, why do we come here? Why do we come to be on Earth at this time, type of thing. And the good and the bad, but all, I think, for our highest good, is all part of the process. The different
Yeah.
relationships and the lessons and the
Yeah, because obviously I'm in France, and I'm with a lot of expat people over here, a lot of English people who've moved over, and these expats have moved away from the UK where they were in the rat race, 9 to 5 jobs, and move over here off an early retirement, sitting by the pool, having a glass of wine, feeding the chickens, talking with a neighbour. And then, some of them do start saying, well, why am I here? What's my purpose? I think when we have that space available to us, if it's not nudged at us, like from taking, we lose our job or something, or the other way is that situation is created where we have the space just to be able to realize, thinking, yeah, why am I here? Why did I choose to come to Earth at this time? What incredible times! Oh my goodness!
um, I was just adjusting my space because Willie just
There's the cat.
the cat just showed up for the morning out the window. So sorry about that.
Well, I'm really surprised I haven't had one of my cats like kind of walking off the webcam in a minute.
Yeah, because I mean, I certainly have had some significant things happen in my lifetime, and you're like, really, like the cancer wasn't enough for me to learn all the lessons, or um, but I think again, aging, being at my age that I'm like not bring it on, but like, ooh, what do we get to unwrap now? Like, where's this rabbit? Like where we got to dig, and what are we excavating? What are we learning? And so yeah, I mean, it's all much at this age, much more at peace with this
Mm.
process than maybe in my 20s or 30s, where it was like, like a pain, and how fast can I get through it, and let me just put a band-aid on it
Mm.
and keep going. And it's also, I think, helpful at this time and age that there are so many other people in the process, and the different tools that are available, and the different communities, um, to get the support, or get the, hey, I've been working on this and I tried Reiki with it, or oh, there's a new book, let me go find out what my teeth mean, or so it's so great, I think, with this community that you're creating, right, that everybody brings a different tool, or a different idea, or different view of what you're going through, to kind of share and support each other, which 20 years ago.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, when we go back, I mean, there wasn't internet, there wasn't Facebook. I mean, love or hate Facebook, for me, it was a massive university and a way to really connect with like-minded people like you. And yeah, we just didn't have the resources then. I mean, imagine that, growing up, like if you were 50, going back 20, 30 years, and what a lonely journey that is. And now it is, that there's so many modalities out there to help us on that journey. And there's no one size fits all. Is that a
Oh, sorry,
cat?
that was a box. Sorry,
um,
cat falling off the desk. uh,
yeah, that there's no like one modality fits all. And if you heard, somebody speaking about Reiki, it doesn't mean that you have to have Reiki. It could be EFT is better for you, or breath work, or there's different modalities for different moments of, what suits. For example, I've been working through a money mindset with a money mindset coach.
yeah.
And I got to a point thinking, I can feel this. I know what it is, but I need to take it so much deeper. And nothing worked. Nothing could get me to that point. I needed something physical. And
Yes.
that's when the coach said, try breath work. And it was so deep. It was so visceral. It got to every single cell of my body. And that was perfect for that moment. Something like Reiki just would not have done it, because it just did not, it wasn't, it just wasn't right for what it
Yeah.
was.
Well, it makes me think, like, I go back, not to date myself, but finding Abraham Hicks back in the days of cassettes,
Mm.
where, like we were talking about community, I mean, they would come to the DC, Washington, DC area back then, maybe twice a year. So that was the time to, like, ooh, I'm in a room of like-minded people. Before I head back to, Wall Street, I was a financial advisor for a number of years, which, there was no woo in that world. So to have those sparse moments throughout a year of, okay, they're out there somewhere, these people. And so again, over the past couple decades,
Yeah.
so grateful to just find more and more people on the journey.
And that just takes me back to how we met, because yeah, Abraham Hicks also reminds me of like law of attraction. Then we get into the secret, and then the vision boards. And we actually met through a girl at that point. She was just like my reference point for vision boards.
Yes.
And yeah, she did this whole course and a workshop, and that's how me and Cindy met. It was going all the way back then. And goodness, I think that was no, I'd already done my Reiki. No, but yeah, it must have been before, because I did my masters in 2013, Reiki master. God, it feels like we actually met before then, but probably not. But it
Well, I
felt
think for me, one of the things that opened up was that there were people from all over the world, in
yeah,
that class. And that was, it didn't have to then just be in my town in, Virginia,
yeah,
to then have access to meeting and connecting with people from all over the world, which, um, different viewpoints, different vibrations is the word coming to mind. But yeah, like what's opened up to us in this process of healing and growing, now with modern technology and being able to, do this across the ocean.
I
Yeah,
think
we're
you're right
just
there.
so
'Cause I think that was
fortunate.
probably one of the first courses I did. And I remember actually being on a landline or on a phone, on a mobile to phone in. It was before Zoom, because Zoom really came in with the COVID or whatever, the lockdowns.
Yes.
Before then, and there was no video. It was all on the phone.
Yeah, like the conference call hotline type of thing. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
My
We're totally
God.
dating ourselves here, Nikki.
Yeah, completely. We're not going to give names away, ages away, or.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what type of people do you serve?
I anybody who's got a problem. But I certainly think I resonate with women, probably similar aged to us. Of um, I think especially post COVID, right? Like my hope is that what came out of her for people was questioning their lives, right? Like, is this really
Mm.
why I'm here? Or what is this really about? So, as an intuitive life coach with these healing practices of, um, yeah, just helping people solve problems, to improve the quality of their life. Um, so where it could be a physical thing, which we know is really an emotional thing, um, kind of helping people with accountability coaching. I think some of us, right, have all these great ideas or start a new job that I'm really passionate about, but so there's a bunch of different facets to my practice of just helping coach people to a better life or being a
So,
little
coming
cheeky
back to
there.
that, I just want to say, Cindy, there's two main things you're absolutely incredible at. The one, I mean, we'll talk about this as going back to the human design, that Cindy's his manifestor, and I'm a generator. So Cindy is fantastic at generating ideas, bringing those ideas to the table. And we just made like an analogy of that Cindy creates the buffet. So she just cooks everything, puts everything out on the table. I come along as a generator and choose what brings me joy, and I take my pick. Cindy is always throwing these ideas at me. You can do this, you can do that, and what about this, and what about that? And it just like blows my mind and really gets me going. I can go in and just pick and choose. So you're amazing at that. But the other thing I think you're incredible at is this is going to sound really stupid. You take a spaghetti bolognese and you do the backward ring, you put it all back into neat lines, and you get everything so clear. You bring this whole mess and just bring it down into something so tangible and so clear. And you've helped me on so many times of just getting complete clarity on what just seems to be a bundle of nothingness.
And yeah, and it's so funny, right? Like we live our lives thinking everybody thinks the way I do. Like, of course, you see this pile of spaghetti, and you can see. Oh no! So yeah, I think again, as I age, of like, oh, not everybody wears these glasses. So yeah, I love doing that. I mean, I have a client now who had been out of the workforce for a bit, just started this new job, and it's been great to kind of go in and brainstorm with her of like, okay, what's the end goal per the company, and kind of then backing in, and what really can you accomplish in a day, and understanding a little bit. I'm by no means an expert at human design, but certainly having some understanding of that to be able to be like, oh, well, if you're this, you're going to need, admin support to get stuff done, because that's not your forte, even though, you're obligated to it in a job or whatever. So yeah, I think to be able to sit down with somebody and understand where they are, who they are, and then where are they trying to go, and yeah, help them to put those pieces together.
Yeah,
Love
you're
to.
incredible at it, because I know you get like intuitive hits and messages coming in. The times you were talking, and I just see you just stop and just turn, and then you come out with something, and it's like, oh my God.
It's like the
And I
downloads start.
I mean, I remember years ago when we first talking, going back to that 2016 time, I remember being on the phone with you, not even on video, just on phone. And that's when you said to me, you're the healing artist. You were the one that planted that seed. And it's incredible because I never saw it then, but that's the clarity that you give. It's just, it's right there, which brings us back to why this podcast existed, why it's here. It's because of you bringing that idea in.
Oh, I love it. Well, I'm
And
so
you,
excited
yeah,
that you're, well, and that's one thing I'd love about you being a generator, right? In my own being, I have the 1,001 ideas for myself. But without having a generator in my life, I don't always take the initiation to get them done, which is why it's so great to be able to be like, oh, you should do da 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 da. And then as a generator, you're so great because you're like, oh, like you said, I'm going to do this and this because that feels right now. And um, so yeah, I love sharing the ideas, and I especially am so grateful when I watch it, on Facebook come to fruition of like, oh look, she's offering that class. Oh look, she's doing a podcast. It's so exciting to see it come to fruition. So good on you for getting it done.
yeah. Well, thank you. It is all down to you. It really is. And yeah, human design. That I want to get a friend on at some point. I don't. You've talked with Gemma.
Oh yes,
She just like eats, drinks, and sleeps human design. She's changed my life, and I think she's changed. Once you get
absolutely.
human
Your
design,
insight.
a
Yeah.
whole other way. So, how can people reach you?
Well, I have a website, tapintoyourpotential.net. Um, there's also, I'm on Facebook and Tap Your Potential, Tapping into Your Potential Fast, I think it is my business page on Facebook. Um,
Yeah,
so there's the theme, the tap into your potential, kind of all over the place. So yeah, would love,
and I should share the links anyway. If you can't remember, it's a faster, but yeah, I should put them in
yeah.
the description anyway. So thank you, Cindy, so much for being here. I'm just so blessed to have you on. It's absolutely wonderful. And stay on the line because we'll have a quick chat after I close the door on this. So
Well,
thank you,
so great
everybody,
to
for
be here, and I'm
listening.
just so proud of you of everything that you're creating, and I'm so excited to be part of the sanctuary. So this is very exciting.
Thank you. Yeah, and if you see anything else coming out of my way, it's probably due to Cindy that's kind of thrown an idea at me through Messenger. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you found inspiration, tools, and a touch of magic to support your journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who might need it. And if you'd like to dive deeper, visit my website at nickyhoward.com, where you can learn about my upcoming membership, The Enchanted Sanctuary, a community for like-minded souls just like you, full of tools, creativity, and guidance to help you clear the path back to your true self. Until next time, take care of yourself, trust your path, and remember you are never alone on this journey.